Hey everyone, Karen the Work Spinster here. Welcome to my channel. And thank you for spending some time with me today. I am going to be doing a couple of things today. First of all, I need to start putting together these Bear Paw Blocks. They're actually, I guess, quarter Bear Paw Blocks that I started in a different video. I will link to that video down below in the description. I laid all of these out. I've sort of been laying them out as I've been doing them, just to look for an arrangement. And I played a little bit on Procreate with it to come up with what I wanted, and knew that I had to create 3 new blocks. So I have done those 3, and now I'm going to lay them out again and start putting them together. And I thought I would bring you along as I sort of figure out how I'm going to piece it, the order, and how I'm going to do it. I'll be doing a presentation for a nearby guild next week, and I'm hopeful that I can take this top with me. We'll see how it goes. I don't know how filming is going to go today. I'm expecting the plumber soon to finish putting in the fixtures that got torn out when they had to tear up my basement floor in order to put in a new sewer, yada yada. So he is coming a little early, he said, so I expect him soon. So I'm going to go lay these out, and then I'll take a photo of it and we'll play with it on Procreate, because I think it will be easier for you to see how I intend to go about this. The plumber has arrived, but he has left again to go get a part, so hopefully we can do this for a while without any hammering noises coming from the basement. I've laid the blocks out, and I actually changed the arrangement I had to begin with because I wanted more white space. So I wanted it to be grounded down here, but look a little airier up here. And they were just clumped together too much. This may still be a little much, but I'm liking it this way. Now, I did not lay it out with this in mind, but when you're putting together different sizes of blocks that are planned as those different sizes, then the key is to try to find sections that you can put together using all straight seams and not having to do any Y seams. I'm okay with Y seams if that's what happens, but mostly you want to try to do it without doing any extra foofara. So I'm going to start out with, I've got some white here that I'll start to block out how I might do this, and hopefully my head won't be bumping into the camera here. All right, so I'm going to start a new layer here and start over here. So say I'm going to add this piece onto that, and that will be a section started. Now, when I'm over here, I've got some choices. I can do a piece here and make that a rectangle there, sort of a rectangle. Sorry, plumber question. Now, so then I have this block that I'll connect to other things, and so I would have a couple of choices here where I could do a section here and fill that in. And then that could connect with, not being very precise here, am I? That then could connect with this, and then I could fill in here. But then I have to, let me back up here. So this, then I would probably want to put all of these together so that I've got, grab another color here, so that I've got this section that I will then add to that one. But then I would have to, this is just a jigsaw puzzle basically. I would have to then fill in here, and then I've got this whole thing going on. So it's all a jigsaw puzzle. So another option I have would be to do, go back to white here, this piece up here, And then I could add this piece in, which then means that this section I could piece here, and then this piece I could add on here and be very sloppy. I will sew this more accurately than I'm drawing it. And then those two sections then could be stitched together. And then that section is finished, and I move on to the next one, say down here or over here. So here I've got a little bit of an issue because I am not at a corner at this point. So how I would probably deal with that is a couple of ways I could do it. I think what I might do is do this section next, because that looks doable. I'll have to fill in some of those spaces. And then I can sort of do a cheat here. Whoops, went white, sorry. Sort of do a cheat here. Let me see if this is going to work. You know me, and spatial relationships are not that great. And I could end up with two different pieces there, and then this piece, and then this piece. So it's really just like a jigsaw puzzle, looking for sections that will have corners and straight lines that I could do. So I could do this piece, and then this piece will go on here. I'll have this piece that I could add on, which is going to make an awkward section here. So I have a choice. I could either do a Y seam there or an unfinished seam, which doesn't bother me in the least, but you could rearrange things so that these come as a corner. And that might be the easiest thing to do, would be to just slide this green one down so it's in line with that one. Definitely a possibility, and then that makes life easier. And then over here, let's take this section here, because we have two choices for how to do it. And frankly, either one is probably okay. Let's see what we've got. So first of all, I think my best bet, frankly, is to do this and then this, so that these three pieces go together, these two pieces go together, and then that section goes together. And then I would do this, this, and then start to put those sections together. So again, it's just a matter of finding the spaces that need to be filled in, and then how to put them together so they create rectangular sections that I can then sew to each other. So the only thing I think I might do is to move this piece down. Let me grab this. It's going to look a little funky, but if I take this piece then and shift it down to here, that's not much of a shift, but it is giving me an easier sew there, because now I've just got a strip across there. And that's another nice thing about having odd size blocks like this. I didn't plan the size on any, that it was just sort of however it turned out. So if I needed to, I could lop off, say, the end of a block somewhere if it was too long. I probably wouldn't lop off on the claw ends, but on the straight edges I would. So that's all I'm going to be doing, is just figuring out where to put sections. And the first one I'm going to do then is going to be, now while here I do still have two choices. So I could do this and then this, which is supposed to match up to that. And then this. Let me see if I could do better there. Oops, that is going to do that. Never mind. And then this. Or I could do this and then this longer piece here. So I've got choices. In that case, it's probably 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So I expect I will probably do this and this, and then sew those two together. And then probably, well, here's what I could do here. And for example, put that together. Again, I've got this bit here where I could shift that down. And I could do that. I'll have to think about it. But I probably will not do this piece until I've got all of this worked out, and then I'll just do a piece to put those together. So if I want to make my life easier, then I will shift this down so that this is a corner here. So just as I shifted this down, I could move that down. First step though, I'm going to get these two stitched. First of all, I'm going to check to make sure when I squared these up, I tried to square them up reasonably well. I will probably check that again because I did make the decision to have these be rectangular. So they're parallelograms rather than having odd angles going on. So that's my plan for It Bears Repeating. So here is what I started, and where I placed these in relation to each other was just based roughly on where those seams seem to come together in my layout. So now I can just trim it to size. And I'm going to be very careful to keep everything parallel that needs to be parallel and perpendicular that needs to be perpendicular. Otherwise, if I just start whacking off sort of semi-randomly, it's going to end up not being straight or squared up. So I'm lining up seams with these lines and always using these lines to try and keep everything straight. I use as many lines as are available to me. And I have triangles for this because I'm using what I had left from putting a quilt together. All right, now I can see that things were a little wonky here, and I'm careful when I'm lining up that I'm using these seams and not these, because those are purposely crooked when I cut them, if you recall how I made these blocks. So if I want this all to be straight, then see what I've got here. I'm going to need to do a little extra trimming on that. And now I'm square so that I don't run into trouble when I'm adding on the next piece. And then this will be ready to go to the next section when I get the next section pieced. And so my next section up is going to be these 3 blocks and making them into a section. So I will probably start adding this piece on there, and then this piece, and then I can put those 4 together, and then they will all come together with that. And then, not quite ready to put onto that yet, but I'm just building section by section. So 2 white pieces to put in. And I will probably do this one first because I've got a set distance here because this is going to match up with the edge of this pink. So that's probably what I will do first, and then put a piece on here, line those up, and then I can trim that. Okay, these two are together, and the width of this piece was determined by the length of this. And so here, the length of this piece, or the width of this piece, I guess, and the length for that matter, are going to be determined by this block for the length, and then this section for the width. So I will sew this seam and then trim accordingly. And this section is together. I think you get the gist of how I'm doing this. I won't bore you with any more of it, but I will try to give you some updates as I get the sections and the pieces together. Just a quick update here on the It Bears Repeating quilt. I have made some progress in one corner, which I think you watch me do most of that. And I believe I did not mention when we talked before about making sections, and I talked about pulling this down to meet this one. But of course, I always have the option of doing a narrow strip there, and that will get me out of a lot of difficult situations if I'm willing to put in narrow strips. And by the time it's quilted and everything put together and quilted, then those won't be very noticeable. I think I'm still pondering the quilting for this, but I think it will be either just straight line matchstick quilting, or I may have one angled so it comes down vertically and then veers off at, like a 45-degree angle or something, just to add something to it. I'm not sure yet. Time will tell. The other thing that I wanted to do today is to spend a little more time with this piece that we worked on last week, or these pieces, I guess. Many of you had comments and suggestions, and I really appreciate that always. Thank you for your comments and ideas. I hope that you're using some of these ideas in your own explorations as you're quilting and finding your own take on things. So I have several notes from people who have suggestions. Jan thought that this looks like, let me put the bubbles out here for the moment, reeds in the water, and then these are bubbles from fish, which is kind of a cool idea. And somebody, oh yes, Thea, reminded her of bubbles blowing across a weedy field, which, okay, these are bubbles now. They're not drops or circles, they're bubbles now. That seems to be a consensus. The general consensus for using the stripe would be to use this wider one in a narrower strip. So that seemed to be what people most liked. Anita suggested some dots or some other shape over here, which I think is certainly true. And if you'll remember, I haven't cut enough dots yet. I will do some more, but I think that would definitely help to tie things together for sure. But she said, or other shapes, which got me to thinking, well, that could be kind of fun if we did different shapes in different places. You all know that I love circles, but what if we did like triangles or little rectangles, or ovals, or just odd shapes? I think could be kind of fun over here too. So I might try cutting out a few triangles and laying them across here. Bonnie suggested having a fabric in between here that started out as black and transitioned to white. So like an ombre, I think maybe she's talking about, which I think would be very cool. I have that whole transition idea, which this is a part of, but I have maybe another idea for that we'll try out. And W.C. Wright suggested black on both sides, which that would be cool too, and then the stripe in between. I think if I did that, I might want to have some other blips of white just to tie this into it. So I might have white circles or triangles or whatever, and maybe some across here. There are suggestions for would I have circles going across here, and I think that's definitely an idea. I could also have, say, white circle here and then end up with a black circle here, maybe a combination in between, maybe even a bubble with a different stripe that goes across here or sits here. So a white bubble and then a different stripe bubble in here, or a couple in here, and then a black bubble over here. So lots of ideas for transitions. A few people thought that the curved seam here was a good idea, and I like that idea because you know I love curves. The thing to consider for that, I think, is that the curve would blend these together, which would be one look, and of course with this transition I was trying to pull them together. Or if I left it straight, if I want contrast between these two, so I want them to look like they belong together but they aren't the same piece. So doing a curved seam would be fine, and we'll try that to see how it looks. We'll mock it up. It just would depend on which sort of effect you were going for. So for our last bit here today, let's try a couple of things. So the first thing I want to try is a curved seam here, and rather than sew that seam, because I don't know in the end whether that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little wider strip here, cut a curve, and then lay it across here. So you all have seen me cut a curve before, so I'm going to do that off camera because I probably will be awkward today, let's put it that way. So I will be back with the curved seam here. I thought maybe we would do just one side curved and the other side straight. Maybe that would give us a better idea of how it looks. That's kind of cool. Actually, it's not bad having it curved on one side and straight on the other. So there's another idea, that this side would be curved and then you'd have straight lines over here, or vice versa. So these are straight lines with the curved seam, and then this is curved lines with a straight seam. All right, let's try curving the other side of the seam too. And I don't necessarily want it to follow that seam at all, the curve on the other side. So here I am looking awkward on camera after all. And now this, we tuck under here. And we may want the curve to be narrower. We've talked a little bit about that last week. And that's how it looks with two curved seams. I think I want to, at this point, cut some more circles, maybe some triangles, so we can try out different combinations. So I'll do some black circles, some white ones, some out of a different stripe, and some different colored ones to put over here. The skies are getting darker by the minute. I may have to do some brightening when I edit this. All right, I have cut some black and white and striped circles and distributed them around, and I kind of like the look. It's different, and I suppose we could scatter some brights in among it, but then I think it detracts from that. I might need a larger black one over here. Or we could do any combination thereof, of course. So we could put some brights over here, but have just white dots over here. We could lose the stripes and just do blacks coming across here and ending up on the white, and then have the whites do the same thing going that direction. Kind of like that. I'm not sure I like having a lot of bubbles on there, oddly enough. I think I do like the stripes here. And these are all the same size. I could vary the size, of course. And they could start over here. Something like that. And obviously we have all kinds of rearranging choices. I don't really like that very much, I have to say. Let's see what it looks like if we lose the black and white bubbles and just go with, oops, I want the smallest one floating up to the top there. This is interesting. It kind of breaks up the flow almost, which may or may not be a good thing. I don't mind it. Please do, of course, let me know what you think in the comments of these that you've seen, what you think works best. The white looks a little insipid, isn't quite the right word, but I think I need larger circles over here because the white looks very different from the black, and I think in order to draw the eye over there, I'm going to need larger circles of color over here if I do that. So those are the possibilities with the circles. Oh, I didn't do the triangles. I will do that, and then I have a couple other things. Oh, while I'm here, when I had these stored away for the week and I took them out again, they were stacked, which was really kind of interesting. I want to avoid the look of an eyeball necessarily, but I think stacking them could be kind of fun too. And they don't have to sit right on top of each other. Maybe they do something like that. We could put the colored circles on top of those. I really kind of like them stacked. What do you think? It gives a nice sort of extra curve to it. I would need another one though, of course, because I need my threes. So that's another possibility. What happens if we then do black over here to sort of draw some of that? Again, I think I need larger circles over here, don't I, for the black. Let me try cutting a large black here because I really want to see how that works. I don't know if I even want the small one. We'll see. Let me cut another large black. I have a considerably larger circle. I may have gone a little overboard. on that, but oh yeah, a larger circle is definitely what it needed. Just to give a little more weight over here. Well, that looks like the 8-ball. It could be interesting. We could make a 8-ball quilt, right? If we stack these, is that going to look like an extended eyeball, isn't it? Never mind. But this really is good. It adds some weight to the white. That's the word I was looking for, that this is heavier because it's so dark, and this is much lighter. Now, if we were to turn that 90 degrees, then this could kind of work as a lighter section moving up. But it's definitely better with the black circle there. Now, if we decide we don't really want these stacked, which I kind of do, honestly, but we could distribute these, and that's a different look again. And lots of choices. Lots of choices. We could add in colorful block or colorful bubble there, and maybe white bubble over here. Then the bubbles sort of overtake the curved strips, which is really what I'm going for here. So I think that works better. I think I like having the striped circles in here, even if they just stay mostly on that centerpiece. I think I like that. And the curve then, I think is okay. Let's try it with the straight piece just for comparison's sake here. Relatively straight piece. Okay. And then these back in. That works too, but I think I do like the curve. So I'm pretty sure we want to do the curve if we're talking about a stripe down between them. Now, something else that I didn't mention earlier that I should have is that Anne had suggested doing a chevron. If you remember, I did the diagonal stripe last week and wasn't sure that I liked it much, but Anne suggested the chevron, which of course can be made with diagonal stripes. And one of these sides has had the hex stretched out of it for various things. I pulled it from something else, so it looks a little not perfectly matched there. But I think if it's a chevron, we definitely want a narrower strip. Well, that's kind of interesting. It adds some additional interest, doesn't it? This may be too much. If we got a chevron going on, that is, yeah, I think that's too much. Let me know what you think, but I kind of think that's a little much. But can we put some pieces across here? I'm not sure with the chevron. I might want to, maybe leave it alone. I think that's too much. Yeah, I think if it was a chevron, I would leave it alone. Again, I might curve the edges. But thanks, Anne. That was a good suggestion. Thank you all for your ideas and suggestions. Now, here's something else I thought about, and I don't know how it's going to look. This is just came to me while I was doing other things. This really is relatively straight over here. It's just curling up a bit. Okay, so my thought was perhaps we could do stripes across those. That's too wide. Let me cut that like in half, and then we'll see. It may be totally bad, but we won't know till we try it, right? And this isn't necessarily the right length, but has some strips going across that will tie it together. We need another strip. How about if we do a wider stripe? Maybe even a wider piece at the bottom. All right, didn't look great to me when I had just one stripe, but I'm not hating this at all. If we want to put in some dots, will that work? Or is that going to be just a little much? I have a little pink dot here somewhere, I think. And then have 3 overall. Oh, I quite like that. What do you think? I quite like that. Then you see more of this, but you have transitional pieces coming across here to contrast with it. I quite like that. I'm happy that I had that thought. It was probably some of you shouting out to me from a distance, and I'm getting better at hearing you, right? So I think I like that. Now, how I would do this all together as a quilt is a whole other story, but I'm not worrying about that at the moment. This could just be its own thing, or it could just be an inspiration for something else. And just as a reminder, and for new folks on the channel, my goal with the channel is to explore ideas, not to design quilts necessarily. Now, some quilts may come out of it, have come out of it, but that isn't my purpose. My purpose is to just try new things, explore, and see where they go. Some things will become quilts, some things will be their own little thing, and some things will just be, tried it, didn't like it, never mind. So you won't see a quilt coming out of everything. For one thing, I do a video every week. There's no way I could do a quilt every week. So just be aware that sometimes there will be quilts from it, and sometimes there won't be. And sometimes they may be going on behind the scenes and you just haven't seen them yet. All right, so that's another idea. I'm thinking that may be my favorite so far, but it may not be your vision, so let me know what you think. Another idea I had, which sort of is where this came from, is to do, well, 2 ideas. One would be to do like a very long triangle here that is black on this side and white on that side, which I think could be a nice sort of breakup of these lines and give it a diagonal piece. So I'm going to give that a go. I'll find a piece of black and one of white, and it will be very skinny triangles, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, to be honest, that's pretty blah that way, isn't it? If we scatter some circles across, still haven't cut triangles, then would be better, I think. But that's still too much space without these lines, which was the point of the exercise to begin with. So what if we do a diagonal here, which I didn't like especially before, so I don't know why I think I might like it now, but just trying things out. Again, it's too much space here. Try pulling this in a bit may help. And I guess that's true. It doesn't have to be the corners meeting down here. In fact, it's probably better if they don't. And again, that could be a curve. And this small diagonal in there. Well, that might be kind of cool as a curve. I don't know if I would like it straight, but a curve. And an S-curvy kind of thing would be nice. Probably would want to be a little longer then, but there's a possibility. I think if we do a curve, that has some promise. But as a straight piece, I'm not seeing it. That's kind of interesting. And with these being much narrower so that there's not so much distance between the main point of this exercise. And then maybe could have some circles that would fill in that space a little bit. Maybe larger circles. Let me try the weighty black bubble down here. Yep, and then I want that to be larger too. Swap those out. So something along those lines is another possibility. Another thought, and this will be my last one, is to, how do I want to describe this? I see it in my head different ways, is to have some, like a black piece here that's almost all black crossing this space, and then a narrow strip of white. Oh, no. I'll reverse it because I want more weight down here. So a black piece here with a little white piece over there. And then as I move up, the black piece would get narrower and the white piece would be wider until it becomes this. And these wouldn't be the same length going up. Could vary them, and they wouldn't have to be straight. They could be angled. So that's another possibility, which I may try later on. I'm afraid we're going to lose light entirely here. It's turning to almost night outside. So those are possibilities, and I really think I'm liking the stripes across the best. But I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the matter and what you like best. I do think I want it staggered. Got all kinds of little hairs now. I have more hairs on my quilting than I do on my head, for sure. And a few pieces scattered. Do I want black over here? Well, there's another look, of course, would be to have the black pieces over here. Lend it some weight there. And then the color emphasis is on the strips. What am I doing? That's not what I want to do. I'm doing white over here. Pay attention, Karen. I have a third white one somewhere. I know I do. This is why you should be happy that I do a lot of things off camera. So you don't have to watch me fuddling around here. So that's another possibility, is to do a black and white bit. with the color just in the stripes. I like it. Not entirely sure I love it. I actually was kind of liking this as I was doing the wrong thing. Choices, choices, choices. Anyway, so there are some options. Love to hear your opinions on it and your advice for what else I might do or what you would do differently. Next week, I just don't know, honestly. We'll think of something. I hope to see you next week. If you have ideas for what you'd like to see, let me know. I hope to see you then. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.